There's a handful of shonen anime which are just about required watching for any true fans of the genre. This including things like Naruto, Bleach, Fairy Tail, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and of course the topics of this video being One Piece and Hunter x Hunter. What makes these two shows stand out to me specifically is that they have this really weird system with their protagonists being Monkey D. Luffy and Gon Freecss not really having a strong sense of morality in regards to the world around them, and as such they aren't exactly what I would consider to be heroes. They are mostly identical characters in terms of morality, both revolving around childlike innocence and optimism. However, they follow different forms of storytelling and as a result end up as two vastly different characters despite starting out at nearly the same mark. This might seem a little bit strange to consider, but to fully understand it, I think we have to take a look at who these two characters are. So let's start with Luffy. Monkey D. Luffy is a pirate from the Goa Kingdom who is seeking the great treasure left behind by Gol D. Rogers, the king of the pirates. Along this journey, he builds a powerful crew of 9 members so far, being Zoro, Usopp, Sanji, Nami, Chopper, Robin, Frankie, Brook, and Jinbei, with honorable mentions to Carrot and Vivi, all of whom he is unendingly loyal to. On this journey, he often topples tyrannical rulers, saves dozens if not hundreds of people at a time, and almost always leaves whatever island his crew reaches in a better situation than when they arrived. For example, in Alabasta, Luffy and his crew showed up and stopped the warlord Crocodile from toppling the standing kingdom and taking control of the country for himself. In doing this, they also shut down the Baroque Works organization that Crocodile ran, stopped a civil war, and saved a country of people who were nearly dying of thirst from a drought. There was also the time that he took down the fishman Arlong, who was holding Kokoyashi village hostage under his thumb. Arlong would threaten or kill anyone who opposed him, and after killing Nami's adopted mother, he forced Nami to work for him, drawing maps. He gave her the offer that if she could build up 100 million berries, the system of currency in One Piece, then he would set the region free. He sent the Marines to take the money from her and left her without hope. From here, Nami breaks down and asks Luffy for help, and then of course Luffy proceeds to beat the living hell out of Arlong, tearing down his foothold in the island in the process. While the greater story of One Piece revolves around finding the One Piece itself, most individual arcs revolve around Luffy saving or helping his crew specifically. Gon Freecss on the other side of this is a young boy from Whale Island who gets his hunter license in order to meet his father Jean. Jean left Gon when he was incredibly young in order to go on his own adventure, and Gon began to think that being a hunter was something so amazing that it must be more important than even your own children. Despite how terribly sad that sounds, he holds no aggression or malice towards Jean and instead uses this as inspiration to travel the world and experience new things. On this journey he meets Killua, Kurapika, Leorio, Kite, and a slew of other characters. However, unlike Luffy, it's very rare that Gon actually saves any big country directly, and instead his triumphs tend to be on a much smaller, more personal level, but still in a significant scale. This largely comes down to the difference in the scope of these stories, with One Piece being about traveling and exploring the world, while Hunter x Hunter is a search for Jean. An example in the smallness of these arcs follows Gon as he tries to rescue Killua from his family of assassins. After killing someone in a hunter exam, Killua goes back to his home believing he has lost all of his friends. Gon travels to Kukuru Mountain, facing the testing gate, butlers that knock him around a decent bit, and a family of cold-blooded killers who are trying to keep Killua to themselves. So, with these two characters literally going out of their way to save their friends, how can I say that they aren't heroes? Well, to me what it comes down to is intent and morality. Luffy and Gon, while their arcs of their story are told through vastly different scales, are incredibly similar on their character level. Each is incredibly innocent and almost naive to a fault, and genuinely want to believe in and make friends with anyone that they meet. But more than anything, these two have a self-centered view of the world around them. Now, hear me out here. Yeah, Luffy and Gon do a lot of good things. However, they're always in an attempt to push forward their own goals, or to help people who are close to them, which by connection are helping them reach their goals as well. They very rarely show an interest in helping the people who are not directly associated with them. Let's look at Luffy again. Stopping Captain Morgan was to save and recruit Zoro, and not so much to help the people of the town directly. The fight at the Baratie was to recruit Sanji. Arlong Park is to save and recruit Nami. Drum Island was to save Nami's life again, and Wapol just happened to be in the way. Alabasta was to help Vivi, and nearly every other arc also revolves around helping someone he is close to, which honestly is completely understandable. However, having a strong sense of loyalty is not the same as having a strong sense for justice, and by no means makes someone a hero. For example, look at Mr. One. Mr. One, aka Das Bones, is the right-hand man of Crocodile, and he has a really deep sense of loyalty towards him. If it would help Crocodile, or if it would save Crocodile's life, Daz wouldn't even think twice about doing anything in his power, yet he's clearly not a hero. While loyalty is often seen as something good, it isn't inherently always in the pursuit of something righteous or just. Expanding on this a bit, again using Luffy as the example, helping the people who are suffering in the nations he goes to is rarely the goal, and instead it's a byproduct of what he has already planned to do. Luffy is loyal to Vivi, and Crocodile is putting her in a bad position, so Luffy lays him out. It just happens to be that Crocodile is the head of an evil organization that's ruining the country. Even Luffy himself rejects the idea of being a hero, if we take a look at the Fishman Island arc. When Jinbei tells Luffy that he wants him to be the hero of Fishman Island, Luffy yells at him saying he doesn't want to be a hero. He just desires to be free and act however he wants, and doesn't really have any interest in the expectation or responsibility of doing the right thing. Luffy is a paragon to loyalty for sure. However, when it comes to being an actual hero, he's more often than not just simply in the right place at the right time. If he wants to do something, or if he wants to help a friend, he's just going to do it, and he's going to ignore any possibility for positive or negative consequences. There's rarely an intent to save anyone other than who he's close to. Think of this almost like Disney's Hercules. You can do a lot of heroic things without necessarily being a true hero. While Luffy's sense of morality revolves purely around himself and those connected to him, Gon instead has his morality based on a personal goal and whether or not someone is of help or of hindrance towards it. Characters who are helpful to him or who are nice to him are often seen as good in his eyes, while anyone in his way is seen as bad. What's interesting in Gon's case is that it doesn't matter if that person is objectively a monster, he can still be seen in a positive light. Similarly, a good person can be seen in a negative light. I think the best example of this is on Greed Island, when Bisky was training Gon and Killua. A big section of this essentially broke down to her throwing Gon and Killua into a pit with a mass murderer named Beanold, who killed just about anyone he wanted without any reasoning or discretion. At the end of the training period, despite Beanold being one of the most disgusting and evil characters in the series objectively, Gon looks at him with a smile and thanks him, saying he was extremely helpful, giving him an enthusiastically friendly goodbye, as Bisky warns the audience that Gon's purity will eventually be his undoing. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have Pito and Nobunaga. Pito, of course, kills Kite, and Nobunaga kills, well, like a bunch of people. That's kinda his thing. And as there are obstacles in Gon's path, he judges them to be bad and hates them. Which, to be fair, is, the right judgment to make with these two. In Gon's eyes, though, they were specifically bad because of how they affected him. Kite was Gon's link to Jean, and because of this relationship to Jean, Gon views Kite as a hero and idolizes him. He's objectively one of the most helpful people imaginable to Gon, and as such, he's the definition of what good should be. However, when Pito is able to cold-bloodedly kill Kite, and then shows that she cares for Kamugi, Gon just kind of loses it. And a similar thing can be seen with Nobunaga, who mourns the loss of his ally. To Gon, if someone's a bad person, he can't deal with them showing positive traits, because his childlike purity only allows him to see the world in black and white. As a result, he lashes out in anger towards each of these two characters. Gon's view of the world is a two-dimensional plane of good and bad, and simply can't comprehend a spectrum between them. If a good person, by his definition, does something bad, then they must have a reason, so he can look past it. For example, Killua killing the guy in the Hunter exam. Gon has no issue with this. However, if a bad person does something good, his whole foundation of morality crumbles, and he doesn't know what to think of the world around him. Killua, as a character who can understand the duality of Pito, doesn't lash out at her and still sees her as a being with a full set of reasons behind what she does. And even the idea of someone being able to understand that just sets Gon off. This causes him to snap, and when Killua tries to calm him down, we see Gon's selfishness spark up more aggressively than ever, when he lashes out at Killua and assumes that Kite's death means nothing to him, saying he has it easy. Gon's straightforward and self-centered view of the world makes it so that he simply can't understand that Killua is actually hurting too, but just putting up a strong face. Luffy and Gon both share a view of the world revolving around their personal journeys and having fun, and not much else. All of this comes back to the basic morality of Gon and Luffy. They work on a straightforward and matter-of-fact system of good and bad instead of trying to understand right and wrong. The rest is just filled in by their instincts and taken to a logical end. In Luffy's case, he has a crew which can pull him towards moral decisions and making the right choices. But in Gon's case, other than Killua, there are rarely people who make a moral impact on him. And even Killua doesn't have that big of an influence on a regular basis. Even those who have the biggest impact on these characters look at them and say, well, when Luffy or Gon want to do something, there's no stopping them. However, each of these characters have their personalities challenged and develop in different ways. When Ace dies, Luffy falls apart. He becomes a blubbering mess of anger and self-doubt and depression, and it isn't until Jinbei snaps him out of it that he's able to come back to reality and refocus his emotions into something productive and press on his journey. Jinbei's able to remind him that yes, he lost someone close to him, but there are still so many other people who care about him, and Luffy's sense of loyalty enables him to rise to the occasion and use this terrible event as an inspiration to become stronger for the ones he cares about. He remains the same good-hearted and well-meaning person he's always been, but he's undoubtedly more aware of the duality that life has to offer, and also is able to understand that there are multiple sides to each enemy he faces. Through this, he's able to start understanding that there are consequences to his actions. At least a little more anyways. But what about with Gon? Well, when Kite dies, he loses his shit. Some part of him snaps, and there isn't really anyone or anything that can really bring him back to reality. In fact, the whole Chimera Ant arc is essentially demonstrating the effects a traumatic event can have on a child as pure and innocent as Gon. We watch him go from eager and happy to literally forcing his body into a dark transformation. While Luffy and Gon both have a very self-centered view of morality, Luffy's incorporates his sense of loyalty, and as such he can save himself from despair, while Gon doesn't have that option. With Gon's whole morality being isolated on himself and what happens to him, there isn't really much to latch onto when he feels true despair, or when he feels truly alone. All he can do when he experiences true loss for the first time is allow himself to spiral into darkness and hatred as his belief of good and bad are thrown for a loop. Luffy and Gon have similarities which are almost too numerous to count. However, at the base of their characters, we see two authors building paths in very different lights. Each has a goal at the end of their long journey, each build a very close, powerful circle of friends, each are pure, innocent, and straightforward, and each suffer the loss of someone monumentally important to them. That isn't even mentioning that their worlds are based on wide-ranging abilities tailored to each individual character, and each of them having characters in their story who are genuinely their antithesis. To say they are similar at their base is beyond an understatement. What really brought them to different levels was the thesis of their stories. In December of 1997, Oda started the odyssey that is One Piece with the goal of telling an amazing world-building adventure. He fleshed out the details of every inch of the map, and the complexity and depth and symbolism in each arc is something truly astonishing. Luffy, in contrast, is a straightforward character with very simple mannerisms and beliefs, and he needed to be that way. It made him relatable, and it made you want to cheer him on. His ability to make friends and his desire to protect those who matter to him allow him to take on any threat that Oda might need him to in order to keep telling the story and fleshing out the world. While we might see minor development in his character and personal growth, the morals behind Luffy will never change. He will never look at the outside world and wonder how he can help it and improve, or how he can save the random people in his path if it doesn't interest him. He will only ever focus on making friends and protecting them because that's exactly what the story needs him to be. A self-centered but loyal protagonist who happens to save the citizens of whichever island he lands on out of pure happenstance. Togashi, on the other hand, was not looking to make a fleshed out and expansive world. Instead, he was looking to create a series which subverted the shonen genre, and in March of 1998, only 3 months after Oda started One Piece, Hunter x Hunter began. The story started off as a very cheery, campy style which followed a happy and innocent child on a journey to find his father, something very typical of shonen anime at the time. And within a few episodes, characters were being killed off by a sociopathic clown. The story quickly progressed down a path which completely opposed the opening motifs, and as the story was brought to a darker and darker space, Gon's morality of following what he deemed to be good began to be less clear. This continued until his black and white view of the world was completely shattered, and we watched Gon slip into what can only be described as being a monster, while we watched the monsters of the arc begin to become more human. If Oda was looking to create an expansive world, then Togashi was instead trying to focus on creating very real, dynamic characters. Gon and Luffy might be incredibly similar when you break things down to the core of their characters, but the roles that they play in their stories, themes they need to exhibit, and the world around them are vastly different. These series demonstrate that morality, even between characters who are nearly identical, is still something entirely subjective and circumstantial. These characters are the protagonists of their stories, and some of my favorite of all time for sure. However, despite all the heroic deeds and the good that they might put into the world, I don't think that they can be considered true heroes. When comparing the morality of these characters, I think what's important to take away is that no matter how firmly you hold on to your view of the world around you, that belief can easily be shattered on a moment's notice. These stories each tell viewers that what's really important is close relationship to those around you, and while each character focuses on that idea of loyalty, the major difference comes in the forms that they present them. Luffy puts in the effort to understand all of his friends deeply. However, Gon just sees everyone on a surface level, and it's the deep connection to his friends that allows Luffy to break free of his worst moments, and it's the shallow, surface level connection to his friends that allow Gon to slip into madness.